Okay, picture this. There's this realm, maybe just next door to ours, humming with energy we can't usually see. Some call it Fairyland.
Or perhaps it's, another dimension altogether. Filled with magic, filled with fairies, hidden in plain sight, almost.
It's that age-old idea, isn't it? Hidden worlds, magical beings, always captures the imagination.
It really does. It taps into something, that sense of wonder. What if there is more? And these stories, they explore that what if.
And right in the middle of this fairyland, you have the FairyFrens. They're not just in the land, they're deeply connected to it, to the animals too.
And that connection is so profound, it actually manifests physically, right? This spirit animal idea.
Exactly. It becomes their shapeshift animal. Imagine being that intertwined with another creature, with nature itself.
It speaks to a really holistic view, doesn't it? That interconnectedness.
Yeah.
It makes you think about identity, their relationship with the world around them. It's fascinating.
And within this world, it's not just one big group. There are different clans. You've got the Fairy Guard.
Gatekeepers, protectors, sounds like.
Then the Willow Warriors makes you think of strength, maybe nature.
Rooted in the earth, perhaps. Solid.
The Mystic Maidens, obviously guardians of magic, maybe.
Keepers of secrets, lore, the mystical side of things, yeah.
And the Daughters of the Mist. That sounds, well, mysterious. Maybe something psychic.
Intriguing names, all of them, suggesting different roles, different powers. How did these groups come about, though?
Well, that leads us to a really key point. There was this time under a ruler named Panowyn where things were off. The FairyFrens actually lacked magic.
Wait, really? Fairies without magic in Fairyland?
Seems unbelievable, I know. Like taking the water away from fish, it points to a time of real struggle, a fundamental imbalance, something clearly had to give.
Wow, that changes everything. If magic is the baseline, its absence, what would that even look like? How do they function? Did the land itself suffer?
We don't have all the details on that, but it sets the stage for this turning point. A stormy night, really dramatic, and the mystical tree.
Ah, the central tree. Always important in these kinds of worlds.
It started glowing intensely, more than ever before, apparently. The Fairy Guard, being ancient, they recognized the pattern. It meant one thing: a new queen was about to be chosen.
So the tree itself is the selector, not lineage, not council. But the tree decides. That's significant.
Hugely significant. It suggests the land itself, or some ancient power within it, is intervening. The glow wasn't just light. It was a signal of immense change.
A shift in the balance, as you said. Necessitated by the state of things under Panowyn, perhaps.
And sure enough, after that night, Queen Fae was chosen, selected by the mystical tree. Her purpose, it seems, was clear from the start. Restore harmony.
So not just a ruler, but a designated restorer. Chosen by something ancient and presumably wise, sets her apart immediately. What makes her the one?
That's the question, isn't it? And we also get these hints that Panowyn's rule was divisive, maybe even the reason these clans formed or became so distinct in the first place, that discord might have forced them into separate camps.
Ah, so Panowyn's actions might have actually created the divisions that Queen Fae now needs to heal. That adds a layer of complexity, a leader's impact echoing through the social structure.
Let's dive deeper into Panowyn's time then, because it seems crucial. This new warrior requirement she brought in, that's where the trouble really seems to ignite.
A warrior requirement. In a land that sounds inherently peaceful.
Exactly. Word spread, and the reaction wasn't excitement. It was, well, dread, confusion. These fairies were worried, This wasn't their way of life.
Understandably. A sudden militarization. It raises questions. Why? Was there a threat? Or was this Panowyn consolidating power? It disrupts everything they knew.
And they didn't just sit back. We hear that many fairies tried to talk to Panowyn to express their worries, but she just ignored them.
A ruler unwilling to listen. That's often a recipe for resentment, isn't it? Suggests a certain inflexibility, maybe even autocratic tendencies.
It certainly seems that way. She was determined, apparently. Her agenda came first, regardless of what her people felt or wanted.
And the consequences of that disconnect?
Yeah.
Usually not good. Alienation, dissent brewing beneath the surface.
Then came the actual selection day. And the method. It was kind of cold, impersonal. A hologram appeared in every fairy family tree.
A hologram. Interesting mix of magic and something almost tech-like there.
Yeah, and the message was blunt. One member from each family must become a warrior. End of story.
One per family. And how were they chosen? Was it aptitude? Willingness?
Not at all. That's the other strange part. It was purely based on who could fly the fastest in that family.
Fastest flying. That seems incredibly arbitrary. Not exactly strategic for building an effective fighting force, is it? Speed doesn't equal skill or willingness to fight.
Right. It feels almost designed to cause anxiety, or maybe it just shows how little thought went into the people involved. Just filling quotas, perhaps. What message does that send?
It sends a message of disregard, I think, that
Yeah.
individual desires, talents, roles,
Mm.
they don't matter. Only this single imposed requirement.
So, as this sinks in, the fairies start to realize time's running out. If they don't do something, their whole way of life, their friends, families, it's all threatened by what they're starting to call Panowyn's tyranny.
The T word. That's a strong indicator. They're no longer just confused or worried. They see the rule as actively oppressive.
Mm.
And that shared sense of being wronged, that can be a powerful catalyst.
It absolutely was. That fear started turning into resolve, a need to protect what they loved. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they had to act against this authoritarian direction.
And this is likely where the clans become really important, wouldn't you say? As focal points for this resistance, maybe.
Yeah.
Or just groups banding together for safety and support.
Seems highly likely. Panowyn might have unintentionally strengthened the very groups that could oppose her. Let's look at them more closely. The Fairy Guard first.
Right. Linked to the air element, the gatekeepers.
Yes, and apparently they've held that role for thousands of years. Their core values are truth, compassion, kindness, pretty much the opposite of Panowyn's described approach.
So they'd naturally be opposed, wouldn't they? Air suggests clarity, perspective. As long-standing gatekeepers, they'd have a deep sense of tradition and order being violated. How did their gatekeeper role play out?
We don't know the specifics yet, but you can imagine them being guardians of principles, not just places. Okay, then the Willow Warriors.
Earth element, finding solace in the forest.
And they embody yin-yang light and dark aspects, described as the spiritual force of nature, fearless, strong, tactical, gutsy.
Earth implies resilience, grounding. Yin-yang suggests they understand nuance, maybe the necessity of force sometimes, but balanced, tactical and fearless. They sound like they could be formidable opponents. Did their forest connection give them an advantage?
Could be. Maybe knowledge of the land, hidden paths. Then, the Mystic Maidens.
Keepers of magic and mysticism.
Their main job seems to be preserving Fairyland's mystical energies, which is really interesting given that magic was supposedly missing or suppressed under Panowyn.
Ah, so maybe they were working against that suppression, actively safeguarding the magic, perhaps in secret. In a magicless world, their role becomes even more critical. How could they protect it?
Good question. Maybe guarding sources, preserving knowledge? Finally, the Daughters of the Mist?
Psychically gifted, tied to the fire element.
Yeah, that combination. Psychic gifts plus fire. Sounds potent. Transformation, insight, maybe passion, even volatility.
Fire suggests power, change, maybe even destruction and rebirth. Psychic abilities could mean foresight, communication, crucial intelligence in a time of conflict. They sound like potential wildcards.
Definitely. And remember, every fairy friend belongs to one of these clans, and there's mention of ancient powers linked to them. Powers may be untapped or dormant.
Ancient powers. So Panowyn's rule might have suppressed more than just everyday magic. Perhaps deeper clan-specific abilities, too.
It's possible. So, with these distinct, powerful clans, perhaps solidified by opposition to Panowyn, where does Queen Fae fit in? How does she bridge these potential divides?
Well, if Panowyn caused the fractures, Fae is positioned as the unifier. Chosen by the tree, maybe she has a unique ability to connect with all the clans, to remind them of a common purpose, perhaps reawaken those ancient powers for that purpose.
Yes, her whole purpose is restoring harmony. That unique selection by the tree really emphasizes it wasn't a political move, it was something deeper, essential.
It suggests she has the inherent qualities needed, not just power, but maybe wisdom, empathy, whatever the tree recognized as necessary to heal the realm. Leadership based on destiny, not just ambition.
And we know she's actively trying to reunite the clans, which must be incredibly difficult, right? After a period of division, there could be mistrust, old rivalries.
Oh, absolutely. Rebuilding trust is slow, hard work. She needs to respect each clan's identity while forging a shared path forward, a massive undertaking.
But the description of the regal line she represents truth, compassion, kindness, noble, brave, fair, powerful. It sets her up as the complete opposite of Panowyn's perceived tyranny.
It does. It's the ideal of just leadership. She embodies the hope for a return to those core values, offering a clear alternative to the path Panowyn was taking them down.
So that's the backdrop, a land, Fairyland, meant to be about peace and balance.
A balance clearly thrown off by Panowyn.
Right. And the FairyFrens themselves, their core mission is actually stated as promoting social impact, equality, anti-bullying. through storytelling.
That's fascinating. Using their own stories as a force for positive change, it adds another layer, doesn't it? Their struggle isn't just internal, it has this outward-facing ethical dimension.
There are also peacekeepers, guardians of nature roles that must have been under strain during Panowyn's rule, and that connection to the mystical tree again. It's also a portal.
A portal to where?
Mm.
Other realms.
Mm.
Our world. That opens up huge possibilities.
Mhm.
Their role as guardians might extend far beyond Fairyland itself.
It really broadens the scope. So thinking about the bigger picture here,
Yeah.
the themes. Courage definitely stands out. The fairies standing up to Panowyn.
Absolutely. Courage and the need for unity. Those clans, despite their differences, needing to come together against a common threat. Timeless themes.
And lessons about overcoming adversity, which Panowyn certainly provided, and also about embracing diversity, recognizing the strength in having these different clans, different elements.
Strength through difference, not just uniformity. Each clan brings something unique to the table.
Yeah.
Collaboration becomes key.
Now, the setting itself, it's specifically mentioned this isn't tied to human history. It's an unspecified mythic time, like an ancient legend.
Which gives it that timeless quality, doesn't it? Makes it feel archetypal, not bound by specific historical context. Could be happening now or eons ago.
Yeah, it adds to that ethereal, otherworldly feel. Time might even work differently there for the fairies. It feels very separate from our day-to-day reality.
That fluidity of time, it enhances the magical feel. Allows kinds of stories, different perspectives.
And while they might draw inspiration from myths or nature, it's stressed that Fairyland is largely its own imaginative creation, not just medieval Europe with wings, you know?
Right, creative freedom, building a unique world with its own rules, its own logic. That's essential for really immersive fantasy.
And crucial to this world is the Fae Forest. It's not just scenery, it's described as a living entity, vital to the story.
The environment as an active participant, that always adds depth. The forest isn't just where things happen, it influences what happens.
It seems the forest itself reflects the conflict. Different parts might align with different clans, making the land itself part of the struggle between Fae and Panowyn.
A living map of the conflict. That's a powerful image. The health of the land tied to the health of the society. Control over certain areas might mean control over certain kinds of magic or resources.
Exactly. The potential for conflict over magical resources within the forest that symbolizes the whole power balance, doesn't it? Who controls the magic? Controls Fairyland, perhaps.
Resource conflict is a classic driver of story. Make those resources magical, and the stakes get even higher. It affects abilities, survival, everything.
So the setting isn't passive at all. It actively shapes abilities, decisions, the whole plot. It's a character in its own right, really.
Absolutely. That deep integration of world and narrative is what makes settings like this so compelling. The forest matters.
Okay, so wrapping up this part of our deep dive for now, we've seen this major conflict brewing under Panowyn, the distinct clans emerging or solidifying.
Each with their own nature, their own potential powers, and then the arrival of Queen Fae, chosen by the mystical tree itself.
A figure of hope, tasked with restoring balance after that period of division, and frankly, fear.
We've touched on the resistance, the values at stake, and the importance of unity in the face of what felt like tyranny.
And we explored this unique, timeless setting, the living Fae Forest, so crucial to everything. It really makes you think about power, doesn't it? The responsibility that comes with it.
And what happens when that responsibility is ignored? It also brings up that tension between wanting peace, but sometimes needing to stand up, maybe even fight for it, and how unity is so often the key.
Definitely. And Queen Fae's journey to reunite these clans, to heal Fairyland, it's clearly just beginning. Panowyn's shadow still looms, I imagine.
Oh, I'm sure her story isn't over.
Yeah.
And Fae's efforts to restore harmony. That's fertile ground for future exploration. Lots more to uncover there.
No doubt. We'll definitely be returning to Fairyland. But for now, maybe a final thought for you listening. If you were a fairy friend during Panowyn's rule, seeing your peaceful life threatened, your concerns ignored, what would you do? What principles would guide you? Something to think about until next time.